Welcome to our podcast conversation on Confucius and Lao Tzu's timeless wisdom for modern living.
Let us welcome our hosts, Tiffany and Johnny.
Okay, so get ready to unlock some ancient wisdom, right? We're diving deep into the philosophy of Confucius and Lao Tzu, two of the biggest names in, well, philosophical history. And you know how much I love finding those timeless bits of wisdom, those nuggets that they still resonate today, right? And with these sources you've dug up, I have a feeling we've hit the mother lode.
Oh, it never gets old, right? Seeing how these ancient philosophies get a modern makeover, it's exciting. The thing is, both Confucius and Lao Tzu, they offer these amazing insights into handling life's challenges, but their approaches are, well, let's just say they're surprisingly different.
That's what's got me so intrigued. So before we get lost in the weeds of it all, paint me a picture. Who were these guys, Confucius and Lao Tzu, and why are we still talking about them thousands of years later?
Okay, so picture this. Ancient China, a time of constant upheaval, states at war, chaos everywhere. And it was right in the thick of it that these two figures popped up, each offering a totally different path to order and harmony. First, you've got Confucius, around the 5th century BC. He was all about establishing a clear moral and societal structure.
Gotcha, structure.
Yeah, he emphasized things like respect for elders, never stop learning, and strong ethics. Basically, he wanted to build a better society by starting with how individuals act.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, but here the rising tide's like a giant wave of everyone behaving ethically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. Now, Lao Tzu, probably around the 6th century BC, he went a totally different way. Instead of focusing on all those social structures, he dove headfirst into the individual's connection to the universe, what he called the way, or Tao. Think of a river always flowing, changing with the landscape. That's Tao.
Okay, so I see the contrast starting to emerge here. Confucius, he's like the architect of society, right? And Lao Tzu, he's the master of inner peace and harmony. Honestly, I can already see how both of these perspectives have something valuable to offer. But let's start, I think, with Confucius and how he envisioned a better society. The videos you sent, they mention these 5 constants at the core of his teachings. Break those down for me. What are they exactly, and how do they all fit together?
So picture the 5 constants as these pillars holding up a strong, flourishing society. They are Ren, meaning benevolence or just being good to your fellow human. Yi, which is righteousness, basically doing what's right. Li, which means ritual or just proper conduct, how you behave. Then there's Zi, meaning wisdom or knowledge. And finally, Sin, meaning trustworthiness, being someone people can rely on. And get this, these weren't just some high-minded ideals to Confucius. He genuinely believed that these were things everyone needed to cultivate, to live a good life, a moral life, while contributing to a harmonious society.
Okay, so it's like a blueprint for building good character from the ground up. I've always been kind of fascinated by this concept of Ren, this benevolence. On paper, it sounds lovely, but what does that actually look like in practice, especially in today's world?
Ren is really at the very heart of Confucianism. It's all about acting with genuine kindness, compassion. It's treating everyone with the same respect and consideration you'd want for yourself.
So it's like empathy in action, right? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes before you judge or react.
Exactly.
So that guy, the one who's always ranting on social media, totally lacking in the Ren department, right?
100%. Confucius would probably tell him to take a deep breath, try to see things from the other person's point of view, and respond with a little bit of empathy instead of just knee-jerk anger.
Now, that's a refreshing take on online etiquette. So, Leo, the whole ritual thing, I'll be honest, it always makes me think of those stuffy ceremonies, outdated customs. Help me out here. How does that translate to modern life?
Yeah, I get it. Life can sound a bit outdated, but it's not really about clinging to old customs. Think of it more as a commitment to mindfulness and respect in everything you do, even the little things like being on time for a meeting or really listening when someone's talking. Those small gestures show respect, and they actually build stronger relationships.
So it's less about bowing perfectly and more about being present, being respectful in all your interactions, no matter how big or small.
You got it. There's this great story in the Analects, which is basically like the greatest hits of Confucius's teachings. There's this part where he refuses to sit on a mat that's not straight. It's not about being uptight. It's about showing that even in small things, we should strive for, order and respect. It's like a little visual reminder of what we stand for.
Talk about walking the walk. Speaking of which, what about Shao, which I think translates to filial piety? It seems super relevant to Chinese culture even today.
Oh, absolutely. Shao, or respect for parents and elders, that's fundamental in Confucianism. Confucius, he truly believed that a strong society needs strong families. And that respect, that care for your elders, that's the foundation.
It makes you think about how, in many Asian cultures, taking care of aging parents is just a given, even if it means making personal sacrifices. It's a different way of looking at things compared to, say, here in the West, where it's more about individual needs.
That's a great observation. And you can see how Shao has had a lasting impact, shaping cultural norms even today. Confucius believed that this respect should go beyond your immediate family, though, encompassing all elders in society, recognizing their wisdom, their experience.
Gotcha. So it's bigger than just family. It's about honoring the wisdom of those who came before us. Okay, so we've got Ren, Li, and Zhao, all about nurturing respectful relationships. But what about Z, the whole pursuing knowledge and wisdom thing? We live in a world with information overload, right? Is there something timeless about how Confucius viewed knowledge that we can apply today?
Oh, definitely. Z, it's not just about cramming your head full of facts. It's about using that knowledge to live a more meaningful life, one that has an impact. Confucius was all about learning and reflection. He stressed the importance of learning from your experiences just as much as you learn from books.
There's that great quote, isn't there? Something like, "He who learns but doesn't think is lost, and he who thinks but doesn't learn is in danger."
Exactly. That's it. It's about finding that balance. Gather information, yes, but then take the time to really think about it. Reflect on what it means for your life and the world around you.
So true. Okay, last but not least, we've got Yi, which I think it boils down to this idea of righteousness. But in a world where it often feels like people are cutting corners for profit, for personal gain, how can Yi guide us to make better choices?
You hit the nail on the head. That's a question we all grapple with, right? Yi is about choosing the ethical path, even when it's hard, even when it means making sacrifices. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard, even when no one's watching.
Reminds me of that line from the Analects. The superior man thinks always of virtue, the common man thinks of comfort. It's about choosing integrity over taking the easy way out, focusing on the long-term good over those quick wins.
Exactly. Confucius believed that truly virtuous people, they're guided by their principles, not by how much money they can make or what they can get out of a situation.
Words to live by, for sure. Okay, so we've explored the 5 constants, and that was quite the crash course in Confucian ethics and social harmony. Now I'm ready to shift gears, delve into Lao Tzu and this whole concept of the way, the Tao. What's that all about? Okay, Lao Tzu time. Let's dive into this whole way thing, this Tao. From the videos you sent over, it feels, I don't know, way more abstract than Confucius's structured worldview.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's definitely a different way of looking at things. Imagine like a river, right? Always moving, always flowing, effortlessly finding its way around anything in its path. That's Tao. It's about like syncing up with the natural flow of the universe, embracing the changes, and finding that what do they call it? Effortless effort.
Effortless effort. Okay, now that's something I can get behind. But let's be real. The world we live in, it's like the opposite of effortless. How are we supposed to tap into this Taoist flow when we're constantly bombarded with stress, deadlines, this pressure to be doing all the time?
It's tough, no doubt. But honestly, that's what makes Lao Tzu's teaching so relevant, even today, right? He gives us a framework for finding peace, even joy, right in the middle of all the chaos of life. Take his emphasis on mindfulness, on acceptance. I don't mean just passively accepting stressful situations, but more like shifting your perspective a bit. So instead of freaking out about a deadline, what if you just acknowledged it? Take a breath, focus on like one step at a time.
So it's about choosing how you respond instead of just defaulting to stress mode. Like instead of asking, why me? It's more like, what can I learn from this? How can I tackle this thing with like a sense of peace, maybe even curiosity?
Exactly. See, you're channeling your inner Lao Tzu already. And remember that quote we talked about earlier. Depressed is living in the past, anxious is living in the future, at peace is living in the present. I mean, that pretty much sums it up, right?
It really does. So simple, but so spot on. And speaking of simple but profound, what about this whole letting go thing? That feels especially tough these days when we're constantly bombarded with messages about wanting more, achieving more, being more. How can we even begin to let go when it feels like the world's pulling us in a million directions?
It's a process, right? Letting go is something you practice, not some destination you arrive at.
Yeah.
Lao Tzu, he believed that so much of our suffering comes from, like, clinging too tightly to outcomes, to stuff, even our own desires, like trying to hold on to water, The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away.
So true. So what I'm hearing is it's more about loosening your grip a bit, letting things unfold naturally, and accepting that, newsflash, we can't control everything, no matter how hard we try.
Exactly. It's about surrendering to the flow, trusting that there's this bigger picture unfolding, even if we can't see it yet. That serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just let go, trust the process. But that doesn't mean we're supposed to become passive observers in our own lives, right?
Not at all. Letting go isn't about being passive. It's about being smart about what you choose to pour your energy into, finding that balance within yourself.
Okay, now that makes sense. So we've talked a lot about finding peace within, accepting change, going with the flow. But what about those times when, well, you need to stand your ground? You need to set boundaries, be assertive, take a stand for what you believe in. Did Lao Tzu have any advice for handling those situations?
That's an interesting point because when I think about being assertive, setting boundaries, I instantly think of Confucius and that whole thing about righteous conduct. It's almost like those two things, they're, I don't know, two sides of the same coin. Whoa, I love that connection. You're so right. It's easy to fall into that trap of seeing Lao Tzu's teachings as totally passive. But it's way more nuanced than that. He believed that true strength, it comes from understanding the natural order, working with it, not against it. Think about like a bamboo shoot. It bends in the wind, but it doesn't break. That's what I'm talking about. Lao Tzu would say that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is, well, be strong, but in a quiet way, be resilient.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's not about being a pushover. It's about picking your battles, right? Standing firm in what you believe in, but not letting your ego or your aggression run the show.
100%. Lao Tzu might even say that sometimes the smartest way to deal with an obstacle is to, find a way around it, like water flowing around a rock.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this whole Taoist approach actually plays out in the real world. So we've covered a ton of ground here, explored Confucius, delved into Lao Tzu. As we wrap up our deep dive, what are some key takeaways you hope our listeners will, I don't know, carry with them from our conversation?
I think the biggest takeaway is that even though these philosophies, they come from ancient China, right? The wisdom they offer, it's timeless. It goes beyond any one culture or time period. Whether you're struggling with a personal thing, a tough relationship, or even those big, huge societal issues, Confucius and Lao Tzu, they offer tools to help us navigate this crazy thing we call life.
It's incredible how relevant they still are thousands of years later.
It really is, and I think it speaks volumes about the power of these ideas. I mean, think about it. We're still asking the same fundamental questions. How do we live a good life? How do we build a just world? How do we find our purpose, our meaning?
It's like they understood something fundamental about being human, something that goes beyond time and place.
Exactly, and the really cool part, even though Confucius and Lao Tzu, they offer totally different paths to, wisdom and fulfillment, their teachings, they actually complement each other.
That's what's so fascinating to me. It's like they're two sides of the same coin, two different perspectives on the same, I don't know, fundamental truths.
You said it. We can find inspiration in both. Take what resonates with us and incorporate it into our lives, in a way that feels real and true to who we are.
So it's not about picking one over the other. It's about creating your own personal philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Using the wisdom of the past to help us navigate the present.
Exactly. And that journey, that self-discovery, is something we can do our whole lives.
100%. So before we wrap up, I'd love to leave our listeners with, I don't know, something to chew on, a thought-provoking question inspired by maybe Confucius or Lao Tzu that you think could spark some meaningful reflection.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. Okay, how about this? In a world that's obsessed with speed, with efficiency, with achieving, how can we hold on to that Confucian value of Ren, that deep compassion, that humaneness in everything we do? In how we treat ourselves and how we treat others.
Oh, that is such a good one. It's so easy to get swept up in the hustle, to forget to slow down, to connect, to just be kind to ourselves and to everyone around us.
It really is.
Yeah.
But cultivating that Ren, it's crucial, both for our own well-being and for creating a world that's just, a little bit kinder, a little more compassionate. So I want everyone listening to just take a moment today, even if it's just a minute, and think about how they can bring a little more Ren into their lives, into the world around them.
What a beautiful thought to end on. This has been such a rich and insightful deep dive. I swear I learned so much from these conversations.
The pleasure's all mine. I always love these little philosophical adventures. Until next time.
And to all our listeners out there, keep seeking wisdom, keep asking those big questions, and keep diving deep.
We hope you enjoy this podcast and find this useful. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.